Beautiful. Guess what? You're already doing it. You're already doing it. I want you to acknowledge for a moment, just like take a breath right here. Maybe reach your hand out to the person who's next to you and hold their hand just for a moment. And if you're not near someone or that isn't comfortable, just turn your head and give a wink or a nod. There you go. There you go. There you go. Already, you've changed one life. The life of the person who's to your left, to your right, before you, behind you. You've changed a life by living love, by giving your gift, by singing. The greeters, the ushers, those who are in prayers, those who will be feeding us later are living love. We don't need to look very far to see how we are living love. And we can look to one another and acknowledge and bow when we do our divinity salute. We are acknowledging that individuation of spirit, that they are the living, breathing embodiment of love in this experience. We are, as one of my previous talks have said, that we have one thing and one job only, one business, and our only business is to extend love. That's it. That's it. Now, we occupy ourselves and distract ourselves in a multitude of different ways, do we not? And yet, it is so simple. And this is consistent with our unity basic principle number 5, which says that we live the truth we know. Said another way, we become the living, breathing embodiment of that which our Creator intended us to be. We are love held in the heart and mind of all that is, in the heart and mind of God. Take a breath here. When we sing, "Prepare ye the way for the Lord," the Lord means the I am consciousness, also means the Christ consciousness. And we are living, breathing embodiments of that, and that's what we celebrate this season. So by the time we get to the point where we light the candle of love, we've already gotten to this tipping point, if you will. And the tipping point is this idea that a critical mass gets achieved, and we're going to say a critical mass in consciousness or a critical mass in thought system. And the whole Christmas story is a movement from the mind of fear or from a darkness and turning to a light. And we light candles to help us find our way, to prepare the way. And by the time we light the love candle, that critical mass has been achieved. And we arrive at the place where we began. We began in love. We live in love. And it is the only thing that is real or true in our experience, and nothing else. And so, when I talk about a critical mass, when I talk about the movement to love, I want us to imagine that every thought that we have is always a choice between a thought of fear or a thought of love. And so what we're doing on this pathway is we're training our own mind, we're training ourselves to more consistently choose thoughts of love. And the more that we do that, so when the preponderance, when the greater number of thoughts in our entire thoughts that we think in a given day or in our experience of life become more about love and less about fear, that's that tipping point. And it becomes like this point where all of our thoughts then begin to fall in line, to begin to fall in resonance with loving thoughts. It becomes a way of being, not something that we just talk about, but something that we actually live in our lives. And so that's what, to me, this season is truly about. I believe that Christmas is really a love story. And in this love story, we're returning to the remembrance of who we are. And so we have this lovely story. I mean, who doesn't? Who doesn't love a little innocent baby? Who doesn't love the one that's called the Christ, that was prophesied for centuries? This idea that there would be this one that would come, that would demonstrate so fully what it would be like to live as love, that one would be the demonstration for us to begin to follow in those footsteps more consistently, more truly, so that we could then understand that that's who we are. I love this idea that we live in a reflective universe, which means that we're ever only seeing a reflection of our own consciousness. So when we have more fearful thoughts, we begin to see a world that is fearful. But when we have more loving thoughts, we begin to see a brighter, more loving world. You see, we're the creator of our experience. It's coming from within out. We're the projector of the lights. But it's so easy, is it not, to fall asleep and to forget who we are as spirit, what we are as Christ, and how we serve as living love. It's always good to know the end of the story, isn't it? It's really good to know the end of the story. So when we start doing these candles up here, I always say we actually begin with the Christ light already illuminated, because it never really goes out. We aren't really waiting for something new to be birthed. We're waiting for something within us to be recognized and embraced. Okay? And so, but all I know, at least for me, I don't know about you guys, but like when I'm despairing, when I'm afraid, and it feels dark in my life, and I don't sense or see any light, it's really hard for me to believe that there's a Christ within me. Isn't it for you? Like sometimes you forget, and you can't even think that it's possible. But what helps us is if we have a really good story that illustrates not something that was only true for Jesus, but is true for each and every one of us. And when we know how the story goes, maybe we can begin to muster up a little bit of hopefulness, right? And so we're beginning in that beginning. But when we're in the darkness, when we're in despair, when we're in a hopelessness, it's really hard to remember that. So we tell the story to remind us. I had a new thought about that beginning stage when I felt despair and hopelessness. Sometimes this little thought could get me moving in another direction. This little thought would be like, in exasperation, there's got to be another way. There's got to be another way. And so that gives a little bit of room for a new thought to come in, and that new thought, there's got to be another way. And we begin to contemplate there's got to be another way, that we can turn from darkness to light, to love. And as we begin to do that, as we begin to insert a little hopefulness, we begin to see that we actually can survive by holding a new thought. That we can actually survive moment by moment as we think, oh God, there's got to be a better way to be in relationship. There's got to be a better way to be in my work. There's got to be a better way of, addressing the challenges in my life. And just that little phrase brings a little hopefulness. And when I begin to pause, it gives a pause. Oh, okay, so I'm not going to do what I've been conditioned to do anymore. I'm not going to react in the way that I've been conditioned to react. I am going to trust that there's another way. And sometimes it's a little uncomfortable at first. But we learn that as we do that, we actually are okay. And then a faithfulness comes over us. And last week then, from that faithfulness, we talked about a peace, because we're beginning to restore ourselves to our divine identity. And in that peace, we can simply be still and know God. And when we can be still and know God, like a God consciousness, like this big no thoughtness, then love can seep in. And we become the channel for love. So when I said a moment ago that Christmas is really like a love story, it's a love story in which we turn from cutting ourselves off from who we are to turning to who we are as connected in God, and to restore ourselves to that love intelligence, that love that we must partake of, must be, in order to rise and live love in life. We must begin with ourselves first. And so in a way, it's a returning to a self-love, a journey of self-love, a journey of looking in the manger. And sure, we can behold the face of the one that we might call Jesus. But over time, we look into the manger and we see reflected back to us our own image as a child of love, as a child of God. And so that's really this idea that comes through today, that we are lighting this candle, that Christmas is really a story, like a love story. It's a fulfilling of a prophecy, of a destiny, and that we each have a destiny here in this experience to be the expression of love, and that we're falling in love with the divine identity that is already inherent in our being. That we are as God created us, not unlike that baby, innocent, beautiful, prophesied, expected. Can you imagine if we had that sense of expectancy with each and every one of us? That we were always looking to that one to be the Christ? Would we not begin then to give people permission to rise and be that love, be that Christ in the world? So there's no need to only have that inherently with the one named Jesus, but not only to know that for ourselves, but to project it, to prophesize it for everyone else in our lives. And as we begin to choose love every step of the way, every thought of the way, then we begin to move from that fear to that love. That tipping point happens. So, what is love? There's this really interesting quote that I wanted to share with you, because when we talk about love, we think that it has to appear in a certain way. And this is from the Revealing Word, and I really like this quote. It says, divine love is impersonal. It loves for the sake of loving. It's not concerned with what or who it loves, nor the return of love. Like the sun, its joy is in the shining forth of its nature. So I'll repeat some of that again. Divine love is impersonal. Don't we think of love as being personal? I come into a new community and I'll say, I love you. And you think, well, how can she say that? She doesn't even know us. And I'll say something like, I already know I love you. And I kind of know you already love me. So let's just get that over with. We all really do love each other. And we're playing this game where we don't, or we have to maybe, figure something out before we do. But why not just start at the beginning? We all already love each other. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be things that come up that we've got to work out, but love means that we stay. Love means that we lean in. Love means that we're willing to see past our shadows so that we can see one another in the light. So love is impersonal. We want to personalize it. We want to make it special. Do we not? We want to say what it is. We want to define all of our relationships. But when we do that and we think that we know what it is, we limit it. We limit it. It's as if we want to say, here's love. This is what love is. Here's a loving relationship. It's special. I only got 1 or 2 or 3 or maybe 5, depending on how big my family is, right? And then I'm going to put a picture, put it on the mantle. And then we're going to point to it. That's what love is. But love can't be contained like that. It's moving. It's the movement of the mind of God. And that we trust it in each moment. That each relationship will be marked perfectly with the expression and the form that love is to take. And so love is not, it's impersonal, divine love, and it loves for the sake of loving. Which kind of means unconditionally, which kind of means it's not a transactional thing. I'm going to love you for the sake of loving you. Moreover, I'm going to love myself for the sake of loving myself so that I may be a conduit of love for others. So it has no need at all to puff itself up, to prove itself to you. It already is perfect. Okay? And so if it doesn't need to puff itself up, it also doesn't have to prove anything. And it also, if it's loving for love's sake, if we love for love's sake, there's no expectation of return. Don't you want to just feel loved when you give love? But as we've talked about before, there's a myriad of reasons why we block ourselves off from love, and it never has anything to do with anything but ourselves. So it's always this inside job that we're practicing here. So we love for love's sake. It's not concerned with who it loves nor the return of love. And like the sun, it's the joy in the shining forth of its nature. So I have stories where I have felt love, unconditional love, to illustrate this. And oftentimes it would be a significant other in my life or my family members. But when I did a similar move as the move I that brought me here, where I moved to a place where I really didn't know people other than the community I was coming to. I was getting to know people here. So, as I was thinking back in my life, when did I ever do that again? And it was in 2003. I moved from Kansas City to Los Angeles, and I was called to be a practitioner, a spiritual practitioner in religious science. And the teacher I was drawn to was Michael Beckwith. You've heard that. I went to California, and I went there, and I didn't really know anybody to start the curriculum there. But before I went, I was listening to them. And there was a woman who I was really drawn to that they spoke about, and her name was Forenza. And Forenza was a spiritual practitioner. And when I heard her name and I was drawn, they were celebrating her 80th birthday at Agape. And they were saying, this is what 80 looks like when you pray and meditate all day. And back then we didn't have YouTube, and I was just listening to it, and I thought, you know what, I want to know her. So I called her, and we started a relationship before I moved there. She was my practitioner, my spiritual counselor. She became my first real spiritual, intimate spiritual teacher. And by the time I moved there, I lived like down the street from her, but in Los Angeles, down the street can be complicated because of traffic, right? So things would happen, or I'd have my appointment, and I couldn't wait to get into Forenza and to sit across from her, because when I sat across from her, I felt unconditionally loved. I felt special. I felt like no matter what I did or what I brought to her, she was going to help me align in love. And it was true. And I did. I thought I was special. So some years passed. We had a wonderful relationship. I ended up moving back to Toledo. And she transitions during that time. And so I go back out to California. I'm going to her celebration of life, and I'm sitting there kind of in a place like this, and I'm listening to people share about her. And this is so silly. I'm almost embarrassed to tell you. And as I'm sitting there, somebody would share how special they were to her and how they just felt so loved by her. And I'd look at them and I'm, no, that's my story. And then the next person would come up and say something like that, and I'd be like, and I felt like, as I listened to everybody, I thought, I guess I wasn't that special, But everyone was special. Everyone was loved. There was no withhold in her at all. And people would come and sit at her feet and just be loved by her. That's what we are for each other. That's the goal. That's the practice. An unwavering practice of a true love. And when we talk about love, we want to identify it with individuals. But back of all of those experiences, back of it all is God. There's only one power, one presence, and one source of love. And isn't it magnificent and beautiful that it all extends from unity into a diversity and a multiplicity, and all you got to do is look around this room. That's it. And you see it all around you. That's it. It's right here. So you're already living love, each and every one of us. We've lit the candle. The tipping point has been achieved, which means thought by thought by thought by thought, one at a time, we're choosing love. We're choosing love. We're choosing love. We're turning from fear. There's got to be a better way. We're choosing to move in a different direction. I know, man, when you're in that inertia state and that's all you can see, something's got to give. And so you have to have a practice, a word, a phrase. I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to pause. There's got to be another way. And I'm going to begin to move in the direction of questioning my very own thoughts. My very favorite, well, okay, I can't say that because we're not playing favorites, but one of my favorite teachers is Byron Katie. And for a while, I used to sign my emails, Reverend Claudia René, a lover of what is. Not arguing with anything or anyone. I'm going to love what is. I'm going to love what's showing up, who's showing up, how they're showing up, how I'm showing up. We return to love moment by moment by moment, thought by thought by thought. Another quote I like about love says this, and we're not, well, okay, I'll speak for, I didn't like it at first, okay? But it says, what love is cannot be taught. Don't you just want to be taught? Don't you want just somebody to teach you exactly what it is? But this says, this is from A Course of Love, it can't be taught, it can't be learned. Gosh darn it. But it can be recognized. It's recognizable. You can feel it. It washes over you. So it can't be taught, but you can see it where it already exists. Take a breath here. I'm inviting you to rubberneck today. I'm inviting you to look around and see love where it already exists. It's all around you. It's right there. It's right there. It's right there. I see some reindeer over there. That's love. It's all over the place. It's in the artwork. It's in the chair that is supporting you. It's in the air that you breathe. It's in the beautiful decorations. That back of those decorations, there was a divine idea and an intention and somebody who brought forth the vision of beauty and of Christmas in a unique way to benefit all of us. Yeah, there she is. Thank you, Denise. Yeah. So it's recognizable. Here's the deal. This is why Christmas is so important. It's not your body eyes that recognize love. It's that Christ vision within you. It's the Christ within you. Have you ever gone up against a wall or had a challenge or a difficult relationship or something where you just couldn't see the love? Thank goodness you don't have to do it by yourself. We're going to practice what we do here. We're going to pause. We're going to take a breath. We're going to connect with Spirit. And we're going to light that candle of love. And we're going to endeavor to see with the vision of Christ, to behold the face of God all around us. It's an inner quality, according to the Fillmore's revealing word, an inner quality that sees good everywhere and in everyone. Sees good everywhere and in everyone and insists that all is good, refuses to see anything but good until it finally appears, that tipping point again. See, it's a practice. The tipping point. I'm going to endeavor to only love. I'm going to endeavor to only see good. I'm going to call it all good. Until it becomes so. And it already is. So take a breath here. Oh my goodness gracious. Christmas is coming home to love. It's your love story. It's your awakening to who you are. Not only yours, mine too. And this is what we do this season. And so how grateful I am I get the opportunity to do this with you. Help me remember when I forget, and I'll do the same for you. That's what it means to be in spiritual community and in family. And you're already doing it. We're already doing it. The trick is to talk only about that and nothing else. Let's give them something to talk about. Let's give them something to talk about. Let's talk about love together. And so it is. Amen. So we're going to prepare the way. Our meditation, we're going to prepare the way.
Prepare ye the way of the Lord. Prepare ye the way of the Lord.
And so as we prepare the way, we just pause and we take a breath. If it's comfortable, we allow the body eyes to close. And we dedicate our vision to the vision of Christ within. That we know that there is a story, and it is a story about us, that in this season, the Christ is born, is recognized within each of us. That as I approach this center, in my mind's eye, I light a candle of hope. I may consider times in my life that have felt hopeless. Maybe I feel that right now in some way. And I say to the self, there's a better way. There's got to be a better way. And as I surrender into that, I move in the direction of light. I move in the direction of God. I call forth the God consciousness that meets me right where I am. And I'm guided. I'm guided in a new direction, and I begin to build a faithfulness, that a God consciousness, that a love points the way. It whispers in my ear and it says, "Beloved, walk with me. You are my child in whom I am so well pleased. You are the object of my affection. And I invite you to say to the self, placing the hand before the heart, I am loved. I am loving. I am lovable now and forevermore. May the Christ dawn in my consciousness as love. May I know I am worthy of love. And I pause and breathe this in as Christ. Perfectly safe. I release all tension. And as I breathe in, I accept. And as I breathe out, the love of God. I accept the love of God. I accept the love of God. And I continue breathing this in and out in a moment in the silence I accept the love of God. As I accept the love of God, I can claim I am loved. I am loving. I am lovable now and forevermore. I invite you to speak this, whisper this. I am loved. I am loving. I am lovable now and forevermore. I accept and receive myself as love. I allow the light of love to guide me this week as I go forth from here, multiplying this consciousness in all that I think, all that I say, all that I do. I invite and invoke love to point the way in my life. I invite and invoke the practice, the embodiment of it, such as that tipping point is achieved. It's like I'm going up in a roller coaster and I'm getting up to the top of that hill and I keep thinking loving thoughts and poof. As I approach the hill and go down the other side, it is all love. I am loved, I am loving, I am lovable now and forevermore. This is how we see ourselves. This is how we see one another. And this is how we see and behold a world anew. And so it is. Amen. Amen. Amen.